Joining me now is foreign editor at The Australian, Greg Sheridan. Greg, thanks as always. Before we get to Australia's most recent contribution to Ukraine, the military package, let's start with a look at the Wagner uprising or aborted uprising. What's the impact ongoing for Putin and his leadership, his authority in that country?
Well, I think Putin is clearly weakened. One of the oligarchs whom he created. I mean, this guy was 9 years in prison and then was a hot dog salesman before Putin made him wealthy and powerful, has defied the Russian military and marched on Moscow. And whereas everyone else who has defied Putin up to now has ended up dead pretty quickly, this guy's still at large, putting out defiant videos, and all the men who marched with him, although we don't really know how many that was, are also apparently going to get an amnesty. So Putin looks here to be running a very ramshackle government with very ineffective institutions, vicious, brutal and ruthless, but pretty incompetent. And, it looks as though he's held on to power for the moment, but you'd have to say he's weakened. He is a weakened and more desperate dictator than he has ever been, and he is a very, very paranoid person.
And it would weaken the broader military effort too, would it not, versus a cohesive and very much a military with high and strong morale out of Ukraine?
Yeah, so the Wagner Group are unspeakably vicious. Their symbol is a sledgehammer because they execute a number of prisoners by beating them to death with sledgehammers. They castrate Ukrainian soldiers as an act of sexual humiliation after they're taken prisoner, or a number of them anyway. They are an unspeakably vicious, terrible group, but they are more militarily effective than the Russian army. So removing them from the order of battle in Ukraine has got to weaken the Russians. But it's very tough for the Ukrainians to make huge gains in this spring offensive, because overcoming well-defended positions, even if they're defended by troops with low morale, is very difficult. The Russian positions are defended by landmines and, trenches, and the Ukrainians don't have air superiority. Very, very difficult for an offensive force to gain huge ground in that circumstance.